My name is John Hammink, and I'm a developer evangelist for Treasure Data. I want to say welcome to our webinar, Collection to Visualization in Minutes. So before we dive in, let's take a few seconds to review what we'll be talking about today. I'll first give some background on who we are and what we do. Next, we'll look at some of the common problems we've encountered when building data analytics infrastructures. We'll dig in a little into how people commonly solve these problems. Lastly, we're going to finish up with how Treasure Data improves the process and how you can use Treasure Data to collect and analyze data. So who are we? Well, we're called Treasure Data, obviously. We're based in Silicon Valley, California, and Tokyo, Japan. We started our story back around 2011 with FluentD, which is a unified logging layer, and mbulk, the bulk data upload tools. Both are open source contributions. Both are still, of course, ongoing today. They are an integral part of our product, and we're pretty much the ones behind maintaining them as well. Currently, we process Twitter's load times 100 events per second. So, why do we exist? One of our co-founders, when he was at his last gig, he tried to create his own data analytics pipeline. He quickly realized how time and resource intensive the process became. Thus, Treasure Data was conceived. Since in today's world, data and analytics are central to making quantifiable decisions, you need to figure out a way to streamline your event data from A to B. Now, what am I talking about when I say event data? Well, you could be talking about web click-throughs. You could be talking about IoT events. You could be talking about software events or logs. Any data that you want to collect from your running software application or your service where you want to gain insight from. But in order to build the pipeline, not only do you need the time and money, you also need the people. The more you need them to do, the more money these people are going to cost. So why would you build your own event pipeline anyway? Well, you again are one of those people who sees analytics as a strategic differentiator. If you're a business decision maker, data analyst, or data scientist, you realize the value that analytics has in growing your business. Analytics then helps you improve your product. So you can actually focus on the customers, focus on what they use the most, and focus on what needs the most improvement. Analytics will also help you, or can also, I should say, help you improve your marketing. So you can hone in on those people who are most likely to purchase your product, as opposed to casting a wide net and hoping for just a few fish. Lastly, analytics help you improve your operations. So you can, for example, catch a service that's going down, mitigate a catastrophic event, or scale your existing offering or infrastructure at a reasonable rate rather than doing it based on over or underestimation. So what are some of the key components of a data analytics pipeline? First off, you're going to want to figure out where your data is coming from. Your data will come from a variety of sources, for example, web apps, mobile devices, even your CRM and enterprise software applications. Once you have a basic understanding of where your data is coming from, you're going to need to get it from the source to where you're going to analyze it. This ingestion piece is often overlooked. Who's going to maintain this ingestion pipeline? How will you connect it? Do you need super low latency real-time ingestion, or are you okay with a little latency on your historical data? Once you have your data where you want it, there's usually some sort of cleanup. Very rarely is raw data in a ready format where you can start analyzing it. So you're going to have to transform your data, making sure, among other things, that there are no duplicate records. In fact, deduping is nearly always a significant part of data cleanup efforts. Once you get your data cleaned up to the point that you're happy with it, then you can do your data enrichment. This is the analytics piece where you'll be, for example, aggregating the data to make it more useful. Also, running analytics such as data science and machine learning algorithms to make recommendations, as well as setting up predictive systems to help you improve your product, operations, and or business. And finally, last but not least, you have visualization. This is where your business people and decision makers can go to check dashboards and reports. And thus, your entire pipeline is essential to make use of your data. So how does today's data analytics pipeline typically look? Well, today, data can come from anywhere. It comes from your servers, your web, your mobile, and even so-called standalone apps, as well as, for example, your ERP and CRM systems. And companies that are in the IoT or wearable space want to track data too. You'll have a team to collect and ingest that data, an ETL team. However, each data source has its own ETL team, which makes the problem sometimes a bit complicated. After ETL would ingest the data, it would get shipped off to an EDW, or a data warehousing team. There are often many of these too, not connected to each other or to ETL. Typically, whenever a data scientist needs some new data or makes changes to existing data in the warehouse, there can be a time lag between when that data scientist asks one of the EDW teams for data and when they get it. Sometimes this can take up to 4 weeks. Your BI or data science team can only then work with your data. For example, creating dashboards or writing algorithms for anomaly detection or recommendation systems. From there, once they've completed their own analysis, we would be able to ship it out to end user systems, whether that's a dashboard, another API, or even back into our own system. Our results are then sent out to various decision makers to view the data. What's one huge headache with this kind of an archaic system? Well, for one, what if you want to add anything new or change any data source to your pipeline? To do this, you must wrangle multiple teams to be on the same page and make sure each step of the process is accurate. Simply put, making a change is not easy. So, how can Treasure Data help you? Well, we fit right into that middle slot. We allow you to easily collect your data. In fact, we are your solution from data collection all the way to analysis. You can use our open source SDKs, many data connectors, or even our open source framework FluentD to stream data directly from your servers, databases, mobile and web apps to the Treasure Data Cloud for analysis. Once your data is in Treasure Data, we'll store it for you and you can access it and analyze it using SQL. Well, Hive and Presto actually. Once you have your data in the form you need for visualization or for export to other systems, we'll make it dead simple for you to ship it to your tool of choice. So with that, how about a demo? What we're going to do in this demo is we're going to launch Apache, we're going to run a web application, we're going to send events to Treasure Data. We'll also ingest events to Treasure Data using bulk data ingestion in FluentD. We're then going to show you how queries work and results can be exported to and viewed in Tableau for visualization. So let's get started. So let's have a look first at Treasure Data Console. So here we have Treasure Data Console, and I've listed a few different database for events that I've already collected. It doesn't include yet our database for our product demo. So what I have going in another window here is my actual web demo. This is a very simple page. And when I, for example, refresh the page, or when I enter a user ID, and then log in, log out, subscribe, or cancel, I'm generating one event for each of those things. And what should happen within a reasonable amount of time is it will be creating a new database on Treasure Data. It's going to be a small bit of latency. Let's just make sure we have our service up and running real quick. So let's do this just to make sure we're running. So already loaded. So we should be getting these events coming in pretty soon. Right. Now we have, as you see, a database called Product Demo. And if I go into that, I can see that there's a table called Page Views. Currently, there's 3 records in there. If we go into Page Views, we'll be able to see what some of these are. So, quite a lot of data here. Maybe I don't want to see all of it. So what I can do is query for some of the data and show me only the things that I want to see. Right. Let's do that. Let's jump over to here. And let's select our product demo database. We're going to do a Presto query. And I should point you out a little bit about what kind of query languages we support. So Hive is really good for batch jobs. Really good for repeatable, automatable batch jobs, whereas Presto is a little bit better for one-off and exploratory queries. So let's do a quick query on page views. And we want to be able to see is basically our event and our timestamp as well. So let's do that. Select event and time from page views. And let's run this and see what we get. So now you see we've basically generated an event for refresh, for cancel, for login, for logout, and for subscribe. So this is a very basic example of generating events. In fact, why don't we look at the source code for the page and see how those events are actually generated. So if we go over to our source code, we go to our source code for index.html, you'll see that we've created a new variable called treasure data in our JavaScript code. We're using the JavaScript SDK right now. We've got our right key in our product demo. And what I have here is we're creating a database called page views, and we're collecting an event for login, for logout, for subscribe, and for cancel. Did we get all of those, by the way? Yes, we did. So in effect, that's how this works in practice. Let's do something that's a little bit more complicated now. Now, in addition to streaming events from our applications, we can use FluentD to ingest data directly from in bulk from JSON. So let's look at how that's done. First of all, let's look at how we have FluentD configured. So if we jump over to our TD agent conf, this is our configuration file for FluentD. And when we're using the JavaScript SDK, we're able to send our events directly from our JavaScript to treasure data. But when we're using bulk import, for example, via a device like FluentD, we need to have FluentD configured. So once again, we have our API key configured. We're auto-creating a table. We're basically buffering to a file. We have a buffer path, and we're going to be doing our flush interval every 5 seconds. So every 5 seconds, FluentD, or TD agent, if you want to call it that, is going to be pushing the data out of the buffer into treasure data. But how do we get the data? I mean, where are we getting the data from, and how are we getting it from there? If we look at the source section of our FluentD configuration, we'll see that we're using the tail, basically the tail input plugin for FluentD. We're looking for a format JSON. And we're going to create, in our product demo database, a database called log JSON files. This is a path to our JSON file. So I've just got something in my downloads. I'm setting the read from head to true. That means that I'm always going to be reading from the beginning of the file based on what's in my position file. So if my position file exists and it has a position stored in it, it means that I'm going to be reading from the end of the file. If it doesn't exist and we're just creating the file from the first time, it means we can read essentially from the beginning of the file. So what's in this JSON file? Why don't we open that and have a look as well? So if we go open and we go to where we have the JSON file here, we have it right here. Open this. Right. This is going to tell you a little bit more about what kind of data we can ingest. We talked about schema on read, and we talked a little bit about unstructured data. And there's an important point here, because you'll see that some of these JSON records have a first name, a last name, an action in the user field. So that's 4 fields. We'll see that some of this other data that we're going to ingest has only 3 fields. It's missing the last name. Now, treasure data can ingest this unstructured or semi-structured data, if you will, using a schema on a read device. So let's look at how that works. And let's look at how it actually stores that data into the database. So we're going to do a few things here to get running. If we jump over to here, I'm going to do a quick history. And what we're going to do is we're going to basically create our position file, and we're going to launch TD agent to read from the position. So if we do 661 here, that's going to do both of that for us. We need to enter our sudo password here. And that should have launched it. And within a relatively short time, we should see another table added to our database. So let's jump over to there and see what we have. We go to our databases again, and we go to product demo. We now have a table created called log JSON files. Now let's look into it. We can do a quick preview here. And we see that actually, in some cases, we have, of course, the timestamp is always a constant in time series databases like treasure data. An event data is generally time series database, so that's something to keep in mind. We have, again, our action field, our first name field, our user, and our last name field. But what happens when we get to a record that doesn't have that last name? Well, it just leaves the field blank. But notice that it doesn't give you any problem about, for example, schema incompatibility. We just import the data if we're missing a field. Now, what if we added a field? We added a bit of data with another field. Well, what would happen is we would get another field to the right of that, and that field would be blank for the other records. And we could go on and do this ad infinitum. It really doesn't matter. And that's the beauty of working with treasure data. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how the visualization would work. So let's set up a result export to Tableau, and let's do our data visualization there. So let's jump on over to our query window, and let's do a result export. So let's first of all make our query. So we're going to select our product demo. And I'm going to do, just to make this a little bit simpler, is I'm just going to copy the query. So let's jump over to my queries and just grab that query from here. Let's stick this in here. And yeah, try this again. Right. For some reason, it's not letting me copy. Let's try this again. It's not letting me paste. Very strange. Okay, let's just refresh. The joy of modern web browsers. Right. Right, here we go. So this is a query. So what basically we want to do is we want to do a page count, and we want to see what kind of different events we get. And we want to do a visualization of that in Tableau. So I've selected my database, product demo. I'm going to be pulling data from my page views table. So that was the application, the web app that we ran the first time. And then we're going to look if the data is populated or not. And we're going to group by event and see how many events we got for each one. Obviously a very simple thing. Now what we want to do is mention the result export here. So we jump into the result export, we hit add, we're going to export to Tableau server, and then we start to fill it in. So what is our host? It's going to be, let's just do this together right now. Online Tableau. We're going to be this guy. I'm going to do our password as well. Right on. Let's just pull this up from here. Bear with me one moment, please. Let's get this from here. Oh, right on. Well, the good thing is, if I forget something like this, I can always go back to a previous job, and that's what I want to show you. So if we do that, let's go back to a previous job. Now what we're going to do is pull up, for example, this job where we've actually done the query already. We have the result export already populated here. And let's do this. So, right, so let's go once back here again. It looks like, do we have a version with the result export stored? Right. Okay, so how this would work, and I apologize for this, we'll be able to show you anyways. We would do a result export. Um, we're basically gonna export to Tableau server. We're gonna fill in all of our data. Unfortunately, I don't have the password right now, so we're gonna have to skip on that part. But when we get over to Tableau server, the way it would work is we would select our data source that we've exported data to, and we would be able to do to select a column as event and a page count as a basically a row, and then we have the frequency of occurrence of each of the inputs our in our query that we've exported. So sorry about the missing step. Small snafu here, but anyway, that's how that would work. So as you see, we've actually been able to put together a data visualization pipeline very quickly. So with that note, let's jump back here and look at some of our case studies. So one of our customers, Mobfox, is one of the largest ad tech companies in Europe. They began using treasure data early in the company's history because they saw the value of not having to build and maintain their own data architecture. Now, Mobfox was able to start small with a few use cases and build out their analytics system as their needs grew and changed. So one of the biggest selling points for treasure data was that Mobfox saw the scalability. Treasure data grows as you do. We do all the heavy lifting. Think about never having to deal with scaling, sharding, or replication strategies ever again. Because we are a universal data connector and collector, we can work with any kind of structured and semi-structured data. Since mobile, gaming, media, and IoT are big industries right now, we see a lot of customers in these verticals. However, we have customers across all industries. All that matters is that they want to improve their product and data analytics process. If you want to get started right away, and we hope you do, you can go to treasuredata.com to sign up for a 14-day trial. Either way, one of our salespeople will follow up with you to see if you have any more questions and to help you get started. So we want to thank you everyone for joining our webinar. We're going now to open up the line for questions.
All right, John. First question is, what if one of our data connectors, input or output, is not implemented in Treasure Data?
Well, since we have a plug-and-play architecture with our data connectors, if we don't have a connector already built out, we're more than happy to work with you to build out any data connectors you need to complete your pipeline.
All right, a very common question. So we're looking at, pipeline management. Do we offer the sort of last mile or visualization portion?
We do not. We actually leave this free for you to choose for yourself. So in my example, I use Tableau. We know that a lot of companies out there have multiple BI teams, and each team has their preferred tool to use. So, for example, we work with Chartio, we're working with Logs.io, but there's really no limit. I mean, if you can import the data, for example, from a CSV or from any kind of a tabular format or a database, then we would be able to support it. We are the collection, storage, and analysis piece of your pipeline, and we work with just about any visualization tool out there.
All right, thanks, John. And then, common question, are we real time? Or is Treasure Data real time?
We're not real time in the sense that you can run a nuclear clock off of us, but we do run batch jobs as close together as 5 seconds, as you saw in my demo. So that kind of latency is going to be enough for most business needs.
Yeah, and if I may add on that, John, so next week we're doing a joint webinar with Logs.io, and we're going to show how to combine our architecture with streaming architecture. So if you need both, you can learn how to do that. If you're watching this video on demand, look for the treasure data and logs.io joint recording on our YouTube channel. All right, that's it.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and have a nice afternoon.
All right, thank you very much, John.